Hey everyone, welcome to a new video, welcome to my channel. My name is Maaike and today we are going to be talking about a couple of books that I know are coming out in 2020 that I am very excited for, things that I would like to read. And some of this is perhaps quite surprising. Some of these books are technically already out, but I'm sort of waiting for the paperback editions to come out for a number of reasons. So not all of it's super new because I had this video idea and then I figured out that I just wasn't very attuned to new things coming out unless it's already an author I like, or if I'm, for instance, waiting for a particular edition to come out. So I'm just someone who sort of takes books as they come along, and I don't really pay attention to what are going to be the new releases this year, because I don't know why, but I just don't really follow these kind of things. Like, I follow makeup releases, but book releases I don't really follow. Still, there are a couple of books coming out that I'm excited for, and I thought we could chat about it in this video. So that's what today's video is going to be all about. But it's probably going to be pretty short and sweet. So the most anticipated read for me this year is going to come out in just over a month, actually, and it's Ben Aronovich's False Value. And False Value is the latest installment in his Peter Grant series, and that is one of my all-time favorite fantasy series. I really enjoy this. If you don't know what this story is about, it is an urban fantasy about Peter Grant. And the first book follows him as he just starts his job. He's just graduated police academy, starts his job in London, and then encounters magic. And then he finds out that he sort of has a knack for it and that he can sort of sense it. And then he is introduced to a secret part of the London Police Department. Guess what they deal with? Magic. So it is a really clever mix of mythology, magic, but also this like detective sort of story to it. There's quite some history involved at times. Not every book in the series I enjoy truly. I think Broken Homes is the one I enjoyed the least, but so far I have enjoyed every single book that's come out. I know that a lot of people say like, urban fantasy, it's so problematic, and certainly it's not a perfect book in any case. But what I really like in this book is that Peter Grant himself is a son of immigrants from Africa. His mom was a cleaner, his dad was a jazz musician, and he sort of therefore has a different take on things. And of course the London Police Department is very diverse, and the author has definitely brought that into the storyline as well. It's not very romance heavy, which I enjoy. I'm not a big fan of romance, so I like that. It's very much sort of about learning magic, doing good police work, and solving weird cases that nobody knows what to do with. And that's just something I really enjoy. I know I will just buy this book blindly, and really great for Ben Aronovich is the fact that he now has a hardback edition because it was picked up by a different publisher, I believe. But I have every single book in the series, including the novellas. I'm a fan. I'm a huge fan. So that's why I'm super stoked, of course, that this is going to come out. And then the next book on my list of books that have not yet come out that I would like to read, and I have to look up the title actually because I'm never sure, because there are just so many of these by now. Where did it go? The new Cassandra Clare Shadowhunter book, The Last Hour's Chain of Gold. This, I read the last book in her previous Shadowhunters trilogy last year, sort of around the same time that it came out, and I enjoyed it, but I wasn't a huge fan. I just think that I'm not a big fan of how she wraps up series. And I feel that her plot lines are very much sort of like, ooh, let's have something happen again. So I feel there isn't a lot of planning behind it. So as the characters discover things, you as a reader discover things, and it doesn't really seem to have a bigger plan, which allows her to churn out a book like every single year and write all of these different series. But I do have to say, like, if I'm very honest, I sometimes just like to read things that I'm just a little bit trash for. You know, that it's not like the highest of the high grade, but you still like enjoy the action and the romance, and ooh, and I like a bit of fluff from time to time, and the Shadowhunters have been giving me that. That series has been giving me fluff. So I do really enjoy it, and her next series is going to be set in Edwardian London. And since the Dark Artifices series, which is set in Victorian London, was my favorite so far, I think I should try this still, even though the last book in the last series I just wasn't a big fan of. I was just, like, it just felt very formulaic in its writing, and it just wasn't really well done, in my opinion. But I'm like, this Shadowhunters world has been with me for a few years now, and I seem to read like a book a year, so it's sort of like almost tradition. And I'm like even though I sort of read part of the last book, I still am curious what she comes up with for this new story. Am I crazy? Am I the only person who does that? I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, I can't wait. I believe it's going to come out in March, so I will definitely be picking it up then. So as I mentioned, I'm not very attuned with books being freshly released. So sometimes I come across a book as oh, it's going to now be released in paperback, and you will see on my shelves behind me that I have more paperback than I have hardbacks. Usually paperbacks is what is available to me most easily, because I live in the Netherlands, and books over here tend to be more like paperbacks. I don't know why that is, but we just have a lot more paperbacks, it seems. And a book that has already come out, but that's going to come out in a paperback version very, very shortly, is The Five by Hallie Reuben, and this is a non-fiction book in which she talks about the lives of the 5 women that were killed by Jack the Ripper. Now, if you know anything about me, then you know I love the Victorian era. I love a good detective novel set in the Victoria era, and if I read non-fiction, it tends to be about Victorian London. So when I heard that this was coming out, and I believe it has won the Goodreads Best of 2019 for historical fiction as well, I was just super intrigued. And now that it's coming out in a new edition, I thought I could pick it up at some point, because it just sounds really intriguing. And but I still have a few other books about Victorian London that I still have to read, so maybe I need to hold off just a little while longer, but that's definitely one I would like to get to at some point. So there's 2 books that I would like to get that are going to come out in paperback. Both of them are already out in hardback. But I'm waiting for the paperbacks because I have the other books in the series in a paperback. So that's why I wanted to hold off and get the paperback version before, I would like to make it look nice and neat on my shelves. I know, bad reason, but that's why I held off buying a book that is another one of my favorite book series. It's by Oscar de Muriel, and the latest installment is called The Darker Arts, and it's part of his Frey and McGray series. The first book in the series is called The Strings of Murder, and these books are very cleverly written. Guess what time period it is? Yes, it's historical fiction, but a detective novel at the same time. Plus, it ventures on the supernatural. It's not magic per se, and that's what I like about it, because this author sort of researches scientific advancements of the time period, and sort of the story always starts with ooh, could this be supernatural? And then at the end of the story, there always is a scientific explanation for it, and he sort of then ventures into that as well. But what makes this story so enjoyable is the 2 main characters. We follow, in the first book, we follow, is he called Ian? Ian Frey, who is a London police officer, and due to some political scheming and his relationship falling apart, he becomes a pariah in London and is transferred to Edinburgh to hopefully not have too much of a backlash for his career, because else his career would pretty much be over. And he is transferred to a department that nobody wants to work in when he gets to Edinburgh, and he needs to work together with a guy called, well, his nickname is Nine Nails McGray. And McGray is a detective who runs his own department, and he believes in the supernatural and sort of tries to help people when there seems to be more of a supernatural kind of idea behind it. And Frey ends up on his team, and at first he's like, here's this proper gentleman from London versus this ruffian sort of Scottish, hey ho lassie, what's going on kind of guy. So they have really good banter, really cool chemistry, And these characters also get to develop as the series continues. This is the 5th book in that series that has now been released. It's called The Darker Arts, and it's coming out in paperback in February. And I'm so stoked for it because I think when I discovered this, there was only like 1 book out, and again, there's been like a book a year. So this is like a tradition as well, that I read an Oscar de Muriel historical detective novel. It's just what happens. So the next book that I wanted to mention is another 3rd book in a series that's now coming out in a paperback. I already saw it as a hardback at my local bookstore, but I have the other 2 in like a paperback version, so I thought I wanted to match. It's by, the author is called Andrew Caldecott, and the next book in this series is called Lost Acre. This is a series I haven't read yet, but I just feel that if I have the 3rd book in the series, I would be much more inclined to read it. The first book is called Rutherweird, and the other one is called Winter Tide. And these are, again, books, historical fiction, with magic. This is set, however, in like an Elizabethan-inspired sort of magical world. I believe the name of the town that it's set is called Rutherweird. There's some political scheming here. Yeah, and it's set in 1558, but like a alternate universe, you could say. Not like, sort of like Elizabethan England, but not quite. And yeah, it's just, it sounded super intriguing. This one also has black edges here. And I felt like if I had all 3 of them, that I would be a lot more inclined to start reading them. So Lost Acre is definitely one that is on my to-buy list, to try list. So the last book I wanted to mention in this video is a book that's, again, already out. A lot of people were raving about it, but it's just, you know, it's supposed to be a big, like, thick book. And then to have it as a hardback, I just know I won't read it because it's just too heavy to hold. And that is The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. And this is a standalone fantasy novel, which doesn't happen often. Apparently it has dragons. And I've heard really, really great things about this story, especially when it first came out. And again, this is a book that's coming out in paperback in a couple of weeks' time. So that's something that I would like to get to at some point. Maybe I could do another one of these when I know a little bit more what's coming out this year. Like I said, I'm not really attuned to book releases. I'm just not. But maybe there are books that you are looking forward to that you know are coming out this year. So leave me your recommendations in a comment down below because I would be curious. So without further ado, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I will be back with a new video next week. Bye!